apparently, through the use of LiDAR, they have discovered that there are enormous structures underneath the Great Pyramid that go kilometers deep into the earth with coils.
Archaeologists have spent 100 years telling us the same story about ancient Egypt, but new radar scans are starting to show they were wrong. I'm going to talk about the secret rooms found deep under the sand, revealing their strange shapes, but you won't believe what is hidden inside them or why they are being kept secret. This key detail can shock everyone who thinks history is a closed book. Basically, we are looking at a puzzle that has been missing its most important pieces for over 10,000 years. Beyond the known world. The standard story for the Great Pyramid is pretty simple and has been told for a long time. It was built around 2,560 years before the Common Era by a king named Khufu. The story says it was a tomb built using copper tools, wooden sledges, and a massive group of workers. These workers, anywhere from 20,000 to 100,000 people, supposedly worked for 20 years. They moved 2,300,000 stone blocks. Each block weighed about 5,000 pounds on average, but some weighed as much as 160,000 pounds. These giant rocks were moved using ramps and human muscle. Things get even crazier when looking at how these massive stones actually fit together. Graham Hancock has a much different idea that sounds like something out of a movie. He says the main part of the pyramid was built around 10,500 years before the Common Era. This would mean it was built by a very advanced group of people who knew a lot about math, stars, and building. The Egyptians we know about simply found the buildings later. They fixed them up and called them their own, but they did not have the tools to build them from scratch. This idea is not new, but the evidence is changing. Now, the proof is coming from real science, not just guesses. Let us look at the precision problem because that is where the normal story starts to fall apart. The base of the pyramid is level within less than 1 inch across 755 feet. That is a level of accuracy of 0.009%. That is better than most modern buildings today, even with lasers. The level of accuracy found in these stones is enough to make any modern builder feel small. Engineers who have spent 49 years working with high-tech machines have looked at this. They say that hitting this level of perfection with copper tools is almost impossible. Modern builders need computers and tools that measure in tiny fractions of an inch. The ancient Egyptians supposedly did this with string and wooden sticks. Plus, the math is even weirder. The ratio between the height and the base is equal to pi. The ratio between the height and half the base is the golden ratio. These are math rules that were not supposed to be known for another 2,000 years. Some say these are just lucky guesses, but Hancock thinks that is way too many lucky guesses for one building. Stars falling from heaven. The pyramid has 4 thin tunnels called shafts that lead from the inside to the outside. These shafts point exactly at certain stars. One points at Orion and another points at Sirius. This alignment is real and experts agree on it. But Hancock points to something even bigger. The way the 3 pyramids are set on the ground looks exactly like the stars in Orion's belt. But there is a catch. They only match the stars perfectly if you go back to the year 10,500 before the Common Era. This is because the Earth has a slow wobble that takes 26,000 years to finish. This wobble changes where the stars appear in the sky over a long time. It turns out the stars and the stones are telling us a story about a specific date. Most experts say this is just picking data that fits a theory. They say the pyramids were built much later, so the star positions from 8,000 years earlier do not matter. But what if they did matter? What if the builders wanted to mark a specific time in history? This brings up the big fight over when the pyramids were really made. The dates we use today come from old records and some carbon testing of the glue between the stones. But the records were written 2,000 years after the building was finished. That is like us writing about the Roman Empire based on rumors. The carbon testing is also tricky. It shows when the wood or plants in the glue died, not when the stone was cut. If someone fixed the pyramid later, the carbon would show the date of the repair, not the original build. The search for the truth leads us into hidden chambers that have been closed for ages. One study in 1984 found that the bottom stones of the pyramid seemed older than the top stones by hundreds of years. This might mean the pyramid was built in stages or fixed over a long time. Another study in 1995 found dates that were 500 years older than the king who was supposed to build it. These dates were mostly ignored by regular scientists. Hancock thinks these older dates show that the timeline we are taught is not as solid as it looks. He does not say this proves the 10,500 date, but it shows that the standard story has some big holes. When we talk about how they built it, the standard ideas feel even weaker. The ramp theory says they dragged stones up giant dirt hills. But a ramp long enough to reach the top would be over a mile long. It would take more dirt to build the ramp than stones to build the pyramid. And yet no one has ever found any sign of these giant ramps. People have tried to say they used wet sand to make the sledges slide easier. This helps, but it does not explain moving stones that weigh 160,000 pounds. Even with 1,000 people pulling, it is a nightmare. The way these stones were cut suggests a type of power we still cannot explain. There are drill holes in the granite stones that show strange marks. These marks look like the drill was moving through the rock way faster than a copper tool could. It looks like the drill was moving 1/10 of an inch for every turn. Even modern diamond drills have a hard time doing that. Some think the ancients had a type of technology we have lost. They found boxes and statues made of hard rock that are smooth within a few thousandths of an inch. Doing that by hand with sand and water would take forever. It is more likely they had some kind of machine. Scars of the Great Flood. The biggest recent proof comes from the Great Sphinx. Geologists have looked at the way the Sphinx is worn down over time. They found deep marks that only happen when there is a lot of rain for a very long time. But Egypt has been a dry desert for over 5,000 years. For the Sphinx to have that much water damage, it would have to be much older. Some experts think it was built 10,000 or even 12,000 years ago. That would be way before any known civilization. Regular historians hate this idea. They say the damage is just from wind or salt. But the marks are vertical, which usually means falling water. If the rain was that heavy, it means our history books are missing a huge event. New radar tests from 2021 to 2023 have found strange things under the ground. There are big empty spaces and tunnels that no one has explored yet. Some of these look like they were built differently than the pyramids above them. This suggests that the Giza site was used by many different groups over a much longer time than we thought. Hancock thinks these hidden rooms might hold the secrets of the lost race he is looking for. Without digging, we cannot know for sure, but the shapes are there. They are not natural caves. Something massive happened to the Earth that wiped the slate clean for everyone. Graham Hancock's central thesis begins with a radical reimagining of the world as it existed during the last ice age. He argues that for tens of thousands of years, the world's geography was fundamentally different. Because so much of the Earth's water was trapped in massive ice sheets, sea levels were roughly 400 feet lower than they are today. This wasn't just a slight change in the coastline, it was the addition of millions of square miles of habitable land, fertile coastal plains that are now submerged beneath the waves. Hancock believes that this lost world was home to a sophisticated maritime civilization. These weren't necessarily people with high-tech gadgets in the way we think of them today, but rather a smart, organized group who possessed an advanced understanding of navigation, astronomy, and architecture. They traveled the globe, mapped the stars, and established a footprint on land that we can no longer see. The story of this civilization ends in fire and water. About 11,600 years ago, a period known to geologists as the Younger Dryas, something terrifying happened. Hancock leans into the theory that a fragmenting comet struck the North American ice caps, triggering a sudden violent meltdown. The result was a series of meltwater pulses, global floods so massive they changed the world overnight. For the people living on those lush coastal plains, it was the end of everything. Their cities were swallowed by the rising tide, and their history was washed away. However, Hancock suggests that a small number of survivors managed to escape to higher ground. These survivors became the civilizing heroes found in the myths of almost every ancient culture, beings like Owans in Mesopotamia or Quetzalcoatl in Mexico. They arrived among local hunter-gatherer populations and taught them the fundamentals of civilization: agriculture, law, and the art of building with stone. This shared heritage explains why we see the same architectural styles and flood myths appearing simultaneously across the globe. Hancock acknowledges that he does not have a smoking gun in the traditional sense. You won't find a 12,000-year-old computer or a titanium skeleton in his narrative. Instead, his proof lies in the anomalies, the things that simply do not fit the standard version of history. The most striking example is Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Discovered in the 1990s, this site is roughly 11,600 years old, featuring massive T-shaped stone pillars carved with intricate animal reliefs. The timing is perfect. It appears right at the moment the lost civilization would have been seeking refuge. According to mainstream archaeology, humans at this time were supposed to be simple hunter-gatherers who hadn't even mastered pottery yet. How could they suddenly organize thousands of workers to move 20-ton stones? For Hancock, Göbekli Tepe isn't a beginning. It's a transfer of technology from a dying era to a new one. Mainstream science has often reacted to Hancock with hostility, frequently resorting to personal attacks rather than addressing the geological and mathematical questions he raises. They struggle to explain the clear signs of heavy rainfall erosion on the Great Sphinx, water damage that implies the monument is thousands of years older than the Egyptian civilization we know. Ultimately, we have to ask if we are ready to find out who we really are. If Hancock is right, we are a species with amnesia. We look at the giant megaliths of the past and wonder how primitive people did it, but the answer might be that they weren't primitive at all. They were as smart as us, just focused on different mysteries. The truth feels like it is waiting just behind a wall of sand or inside a hidden chamber we haven't opened yet. The evidence is starting to pile up, and the forgotten childhood of humanity may soon be brought back into the light. What if our history is not a straight line, but a series of starts and stops? If a giant flood happened today, what would be left of us in 10,000 years? Probably just the stone and the legends. Maybe we should look closer at what the ancients left behind. Could these pyramids be a message for us? Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Do you think we are being told the whole truth about our past? Or is there something big still hidden under the sand? Let me know in the comments.